Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, and a big hello to Scott Carlson in Dallas, Texas, who emailed in and said, "Love the show, Neil. I listen to the podcast on my commute every morning or evening, depending on the time of day that you release the episodes." Well, thanks so much, Scott. And I must admit, I've recorded 12 interviews this week, so I'm going to try and schedule them all in at a more regular time next week. That whole TED Talks book thing I was doing and going away on holiday kind of put me behind a little bit. And I always try to be 1 week ahead, but like I said, each time I go away or hit a tech conference, I fall behind again. And getting 7 episodes a week recorded, edited and published can be quite a challenge, but hey, I rise to it nonetheless. So a big thanks for your email, Scott, and for, of course, tuning into this podcast. Now, a few years ago, I think it was Mark Cuban that said data is the new oil. And for businesses, data is now their biggest asset, or liability, depending on their viewpoint, of course. And I recently discovered a company called Import.io. And Import.io delivered the world's web data directly to enterprises. And they're fueling business insight and competitive advantage as a result. So I felt compelled to find a little bit more about Import.io. So I invited their CEO, Gary Reed, onto the show. But he's also got a fascinating backstory too. He's a 20-plus year high-tech veteran, and he's established a track record of successful business leadership, building organisations that have achieved and sustained long-term growth and profitability. For example, he founded Converse Software back in 2002. And in 2004, he merged Converse Software with Nimbus Software to form Nimsoft. So, in my eyes, he's tech royalty. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to California so we can speak with Gary Reed from Import.io. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Gary. Can you tell the listeners a little more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah. Hey, Neil, nice to talk to you today. And so, just a little bit about myself. I was born and brought up in England, originally an Essex boy, believe it or not, and then moved across to California when I was about 30. With a tech company, and actually, now I'm married here, kids here, but I'm just in the process of moving back to London. I'm sort of split my time between the two, and always worked in tech, and for the last sort of 10, 15 years or so, always been doing startups. So it's been fun. It's been great.
And you've not picked up that transatlantic accent yet?
Well, that depends who you ask, actually. When I come back to the UK, my kids accuse me of whenever I, talk to my parents, my British accent gets stronger. And whenever I'm calling people, in California, of course, some of the California accent comes on. So I'm sort of stranded somewhere right now, somewhere across the Atlantic, I think.
Yeah, it's funny how you do that, isn't it? You just drift and almost merge to or adapt to any situation that you find yourself in unconsciously. It's strange.
Well, that's right. I mean, my wife's American, and my kids, of course, were all born here, and so they still laugh at me for the way that I say yogurt and water and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, you have to be understood, so you tend to adapt to the environment that you're in.
Excellent. Well, before we talk about Import.io, I think we should spend a few minutes talking about the kind of problems that businesses are experiencing at the moment. For example, I recently read that the financial impact of poor data quality on organisations is an incredible 9.7 million per year. I mean, can you expand on that and any trends or problems that you're seeing from any conversations you've had with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big problem. People think of data is data, but it's just not true. I mean, there's sort of the garbage in, garbage out scenario. Absolutely holds true, which is that if you're trying to make critical business decisions based upon the data, and the data is not 100% accurate or got mistakes in it, then potentially you can make massive decisions that are wrong. There was another study, I think IBM did it, that suggested that poor quality data was costing the U.S. economy over $3 trillion per year. And so if you think about it, what do you use data for? Maybe you use data to set your pricing of your products, or if you're, in the banking or investment banking, environment, you might use data to make, stock recommendations or stock trades or things like that. If you've got mistakes in the data, then, you might be, setting a loaf of bread at, 35p instead of £1.35, or whatever that may be, but multiplied on the longest, on a bigger scale, that might mean that a bank or a hedge fund, decides to take a position in a stock, and gets it all wrong, and of course that can cost multiple millions of dollars in and of itself. So yeah, it's a big issue for people. They sort of forget about the fact that quality really matters.
And can you also tell the listeners a little bit more about exactly what Import.io is and how your data integration solutions are actually delivering the world's data to their business and solve some of the problems that we've just talked about there? Because it like I say, it is a big problem, but there is a solution there, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I mean, if you think about it, right, organizations, so many companies today are trying to become much more data driven in their decision making. And when you think of the different types of data that there is available, there's the internal data. So in your CRM system or your ERP system, your customer data that you have. And so that's all data that you have yourselves and that you own. Then there are data sets that you can buy from different places if you're interested, and then there's everything else, which is the web, and think about what is on the web, and you can answer almost any question that you have by going to the web, and so the amount of data on the web and the richness of that data is just incredible. You want to trade a stock. You want to kind of understand competitive pricing. You want to understand your customer sentiment. You want to understand which products your customers like of yours and which products they don't like. You want to understand, what the market looks like for, rental properties in Birmingham in December, for instance. Yeah. All of those questions can be answered with data that's got from websites. But the fundamental problem is that the web is not designed to give up its data to be read by and executed on by machines. The web's there for you and I to go do our weekly shopping or go find out the things that we want to go find out. And so it's that capability to take websites and to take the data and look at the data that's on that website and convert it into a format and provide it to our customers into a format that they can then use to make their business decisions, based upon that.
And I suspect we're going to have more than a few business leaders listening to our conversation today, and they're going to be nodding their head in agreement at many of the issues we've raised today and fully understand the importance of understanding web data here in 2019 and beyond, of course. But how can they start harnessing their company's web data?
Yeah, absolutely. And, what's interesting is that most organizations of any size are already using web data in their business. And so you go to any organization like, whether it's a bank or a travel company or a retailer or an advisory company, and they're already using web data in their business. But typically the way that they're doing it, Neil, is that they've got a team of engineers, and that team of engineers is writing programs and writing scripts and trying to get this data off of the websites. And ultimately, it's a flawed approach. And it's a flawed approach because the web is constantly changing. And so those programs, constantly have to be updated and changed. And so with that approach, what we find is that companies are struggling with the quality of the data, to go back to the earlier point that you raised. They're struggling with the scale of the data, and they're struggling with the reliability of the data. Where, I need a certain amount of data, I need this particular set of data delivered on at a particular time on a particular date, and they struggle with the reliability of that. The beauty of Import.io is, companies, they come to our website, they register, they start to engage in a discussion with us, and we take all of those problems away from them. We guarantee the quality of the data. We guarantee the reliability. We can deliver data at massive scale. Some of the projects that we're doing are just incredible scale. And they don't have any need to deploy those engineering resources that are becoming more and more valuable into this area. We essentially will do it all for them. And normally it starts with a business discussion. It starts with, what are you trying to achieve? What is your company looking to do with this data? And then we sit down with the client, and we sit down with with the individuals, and we work out a strategy to deliver that for them. And then we do all the heavy lifting for them.
And it is a huge, huge topic at the moment. And before you came on, I did a little bit of research, and I found a stat that said that the total spend on web data integration is estimated to hit $5 billion in 2019. Is that right? 'Cause that sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's this is sort of the biggest market that nobody knows exists almost. Yeah. Because most of that spending, and I'm actually familiar with the report there that you referenced. Most of that $5 billion is being spent internally. It's being spent on teams of engineers, and it's being spent on the IT infrastructure and the analysts to write these programs and try to pull that data. And so what we're saying to people is, you don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to spend that money anymore internally. You don't have to build those teams of engineers. Now there's a service and a product that can do this. For you. And I don't know how old you are, but I remember back in the business intelligence market, when that first got started. Because data used to get put into databases, right? But then if you wanted to understand the data, do graphs or charts or anything on data, you'd have to go get an engineer to write SQL code to pull that data out of the databases and to bring it to life for you. And then these companies came along with business intelligence solutions that enabled you to go and get access to that through a product. And you didn't have to write code anymore. And suddenly the whole business intelligence market was born. And, we've all seen, how big that market has become. But, before it existed, it was just engineers writing SQL statements to pull data from databases. And I think we're going to see the same in this market. I think, people are doing it internally themselves. But I think, they would much rather be spending, a fraction of that money and be spending it externally in a solution that does it for them.
So if we zoom out for a moment and just take everything we've talked about today, can you help listeners understand how Import.io is actually enabling any organization to gain that kind of intelligence, increased efficiencies and competitive advantage, all from the vast amount of data on the web?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's easy if I can talk about like a couple of uses that our customers
sure, that'd be perfect.
I'll talk generically because we obviously don't talk about very specific customer, projects. But let's say you're in the travel industry, for instance, so hotel rooms, vacation rentals, rental cars, airline tickets, etc. It's a, multi-trillion-dollar industry. And you have a limited inventory of products, right? So I've got, a limited number of hotel rooms or a limited number of, vacation properties or rental cars that I have available. And you have to decide how you want to price those. And what you find is that you can become very sophisticated in your pricing, because if you price too low, then okay, all of your properties get booked, but you don't make any profit, or you lower your profit on them. If you price too high, then maybe you're trying to get a very, very high profit, but now you're not competitively priced, and so nobody books that property. And so you start to think, well, what's the right price, for the property, or the rental car, or whatever that might be. And of course, that price might change, depending on whether it's July or December. And it will change based upon what your competition is doing as well. And so the whole idea of being able to price products in a dynamic nature based upon the time of the year, what competitors are pricing things at, maybe what the inventory is, what your margins are, is something that is becoming extremely popular, because it's how companies will get the most revenue and the most margin out of their available inventory. And you think about who are the kings of this. The kings of this are Amazon, right? Where you'll go onto Amazon right now and look up a product, and I'll go onto Amazon and look up the exact same product, and we might get a different price presented to us based upon our history with buying that product. And then guess what? We'll log in 2 hours from now, and the price will be different again, because Amazon are looking at all of the data on all of the products on the market. They harness a huge amount of this data, and they have algorithms that are driving the product pricing to be very very customized to the consumer. And so that's just one example, for instance, of harnessing this data to be able to drive increased revenue, increased margin, making sure that you're selling the inventory that you have available at the right price to maximize those two areas.
And I also read, before speaking to you today, that Import.io was recently recognised by KMWorld as a trend-setting product of 2019. Can you tell me more about that kind of recognition? Because it certainly sounds like a nod from the industry that you're doing things, that you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. So KMWorld is all about knowledge management, as you know, and they do these awards every year. And what the awards look for is that they look for products that are helping digital transformation, and they look for companies and products that are constantly innovating and driving helping in that area of digital transformation. And so it was good. It's good to get for us, it's great to get external recognition for the work that we're doing. We have, we invest a lot as a company into our engineering and our research and development team. We have a pretty big team here where we're constantly trying to solve more and more of these problems and make it easier and easier for customers. And so, it's nice to get the thumbs up like that from a third party.
So looking towards the future, what's your grand vision for Import.io? And is there anything else you can share about the road ahead for you guys?
Yeah, most definitely. For us, we want to make, access to this, massive amount of data that's called the web, really available to anyone. And so we want to continue to make it easier and easier. We want to continue to make it a lower and lower cost over time, so that anybody from the local business right up to the to the multinational can have access to the same data set. Otherwise, and there's been a lot of press recently about Google and Facebook and Amazon, and how these very, very large companies own so much data today, and it creates an unfair playing field to, for a retailer. I mean, we're seeing what's happening in the retail space right now. For a retailer to compete with Amazon is very, very difficult today because Amazon have got better data and better algorithms, and they can set the pricing, much, much better than a regular retailer can. And, we'd like to do our piece to level that playing field. We of course know it's never going to be completely leveled, but we think, we can help not just the bigger companies, but also the smaller companies as well. And so, we'd essentially like to make it ubiquitous. We'd like to give access to everybody. We already have programs where we give a lot of universities free access to our product. And so if there are any, universities or students listening, please contact us because we'll give you free access because you're using us in a not-for-profit manner to do research. That's ultimately what we would like to achieve.
Now, also on this Daily Tech podcast, I'm always fascinated by the story behind a tech leader's success and how they got where they are today. And I think before I let you go, I must point out that you founded Converse Software in 2002, and in 2004, I think you merged Converse Software into Nimbus Software to form Nimsoft. But the question I'd love to ask is, what have you learned along the way in your vast career in technology?
Yeah, absolutely. And Nimsoft was the eventual company there, and it was purchased by CA. Some people would know it better as Computer Associates. And that was a great run that we had, building that company. I've learned a couple of things really. I guess I've learned a lot of things, but a couple of things stand out. One of which is that these businesses, while they're technology businesses, they're really people businesses. And it's about the quality of the people, and it's about the quality of the team. And if you can build the culture of an organization where the teams, pulling together and all pulling for the same goal, then that's a huge advantage. And I've seen both. I've seen organizations where teams pull apart and they pull against each other, and it really destroys the company very, very quickly. So that's the first thing is really that it's all about it's all about people and the quality of those people and how they pull together as a team. I think the second thing for me is that you've got to make sure that you have fun along the way. People think startups are sort of sprints. They think of them as, oh my God, we're moving super fast and we're going to get this done and we've got to do this. But actually, startups are around for a very long time. We all see the press and the companies that go public, and we all think of, wow, that's amazing. How big that company is, but it takes a long time to get there. And so you got to be careful to not burn yourself out along the way. There's times where you maybe push a little harder than at other times, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. And pulling together and making sure that as an individual, but also as a team, you're enjoying the journey is critically important in my mind. And that's what we try to do. We try to make the company the best place that they've ever worked, and we try to in their future career, we want them to look back at working at Import.io or other companies that I've been at and say, that was a great company. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. It was successful. And, I really enjoyed that, that time.
Fantastic advice. And we've covered a lot of ground today, and I suspect people are going to be wanting to find out more about Import.io. So could I just ask that you remind them of the web details, where they can find you online, and also the best way of contacting your team if they are left with any questions?
Yeah. So the website is just, the straight import.io. And of course, everyone pronounces our name differently. They don't know whether to say import.io, import.io, or actually some people pronounce us importio, which was a new one I heard the other day. And the best way to contact us is absolutely to go to the website import.io. And there are, kind of contact forms on there. Fill in a contact form, or there's both UK and US phone numbers at the bottom of the website as well. And so, feel free to give us a call, and we'll pick up and love to have a conversation with people about their needs for web data and how it can change their business.
Fantastic. Well, I always say at the end of every episode that technology works best when it brings people together. And I absolutely love what you said a few moments ago there, that tech businesses are ultimately people businesses, and it's people at the heart of everything. And also, in an age of instant gratification, everyone wants success right now. They don't see those 10-year overnight success stories. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And it's so important to highlight that as well. But more than anything, just a big thank you for taking the time to come and speak with me today. Thanks, Gary.
All right. Well, thank you. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
So the Import.io web data integration solution extracts, prepares and integrates high-quality comprehensive web data into customers' analytics platforms and their business applications. And web data integration quickly and cost-effectively delivers high-quality web data at enterprise scale, and all that is incredibly cool. But without requiring expensive engineering teams to constantly be writing code and monitoring quality and maintaining logic, that is what really excites me about this. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode and anything else we've talked about recently, or even if you'd just like to simply contact me, ask a question, or offer a little friendly feedback. Whatever it is, my doors are always open to each and every one of you. And my email address is techblogwriter@outlook.com. And if you'd like to work with me or browse through the back catalogue of episodes, you can find my website on techblogwriter.co.uk. So that's it for me. Over to you. I'll await your correspondence, and I'm going to go off and check my inbox now to see if there's something waiting for me already. So, but more than anything, just a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.